Hello and welcome to Eyes on Research, the podcast that digests the latest scientific innovations in eye research using simple and understandable terms. I am your host, Thales Guimarães, medical doctor and clinician scientist at Moorfields Eye Hospital. Welcome to another episode of this podcast. Today, we'll be talking a bit about charities and family support groups, including what they are and how they work, and give a bit of a historical perspective on them. We'll also be talking a little bit about patient registries. To help me with this task, I have a very special guest today, Bhavna Tailor. Bhavna is a mother of a son with Stargardt's disease. She is also the CEO and one of the founders of Stargardt's Connected. This charity supports those affected by Stargardt's disease, raises awareness, and funds for support and research. She is also a qualified teacher and has experience of working in education for nearly 20 years. She uses the skill used in teaching, such as leadership, collaboration, empathy, and critical thinking in her role as a CEO. Bhavna is very passionate about supporting those affected by Stargardt's as well as working with industry, medical and health professionals to help raise the profile of Stargardt's disease for the benefit of the community. Bhavna, thank you so much for being here with me today.
Well, thank you for inviting me to speak.
I can only imagine how busy you must be, so I'm really grateful for taking the time.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
So, you are an educator with nearly 20 years of experience, right?
Yes, I am.
How do you go from being a primary school teacher, and I think this is a good way to start, which, in my honest opinion, is one of the most important jobs anyone can have, to the amazing role as the founder and CEO of such an amazing and mighty group as Target Connected? Could you tell us a bit about your story?
Yeah, so it all happened when my son Ethan was 7 years old, and it was when he was diagnosed with Stargardt's disease. Um, so I had been concerned about his vision a little bit because he was having problems seeing in the distance. I just thought he needed glasses. So I took him to the opticians, and they sort of said that there was an issue which couldn't be rectified with a prescription. So I was a little bit concerned about that, and so I actually did a referral to Moorfields Eye Hospital, and I remember seeing Professor Michaelides, and he had his diagnosis journey wasn't actually that long. And he was diagnosed with Stargardt's, and I remember thinking, I have never heard of this condition before. And it's really scary. And I was obviously really distraught as a mum because, you hear about this condition, you find out there's no treatment or there's no, it's progressive and you're just worried about their future. And one of the first things I wanted to do, and I remember speaking to Professor Michaelides about this, was is there a support group, Stargardt specific support group? Because you feel quite isolated and you feel quite helpless, and I wanted to meet others with Stargardt's, and I wanted even to meet others as well. So that's how it all sort of started. Professor Michaelides said there wasn't anything specific for Stargardt's, but he was keen for something to be set up, and he said he would help me. And that's when he signposted me to Andy Skilton, who at that time was working for Moorfields NIHR, which is the National Institute of Health and Care Research. And his role was PPI, so it was Patient Public Involvement Lead. And I think that's when I spoke to him about the need to have something specific for Stargardt's. I mean, again, you're feeling very lonely and isolated and scared. And, I think it took me about 3 days to kind of look at the internet and find out as much information about Stargardt's, and that was it. So I was quite keen to sort of set something up. And I think what happened was that I was quite persistent, and there was a little pot of money. And Andy Skilton set up this Stargardt Patient Day, and he asked me to come and speak as a parent on the patient panel, and I was quite happy to do that. And it was probably the first time in the UK that we had this kind of Stargardt Day, and it was quite emotional actually. But there was also a real need. You could tell there was It was amazing because we had, researchers talking. Obviously, we had, I was on the patient panel, so I spoke of my experience. There were other people with Stargardt there talking about their experience. And after the day, I remember, we had like a meeting, sort of a post, patient day meeting. And I remember saying, actually, the momentum is there that, we need to set something up. And that's how Stargardt's Connected was kind of born, the idea. So, I said, look, I want to set up something, I want to set up a charity. So we registered as a charity in 2019, and we've just sort of grown from there, which is really exciting.
It really is, Bhavna, and thank you so much for sharing your story with us. That's very inspirational. And it's not easy to take the steps to build something like this, particularly when it hits that close to home, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And I think, you feel quite helpless. And I think a lot of the thing was about doing something positive and doing something that's going to not just help my family, but help others as well. And that was a really important motivator, doing something really positive when in a really dark time. It was a really, really tough time because you want the best for your children. And then when you find out there's something wrong with your child and there's nothing you can do about it, it's tough. It's really tough.
Yeah, I mean, I can only imagine how it must be to be on your shoes, Bhavna. Thank you so much for sharing this indeed. I think that's very hard to do. And, for what is worth, I think the work that you and everyone at Stargardt Connected do is nothing short of amazing. And by the way, speaking of amazing, you have recently been awarded the Prime Minister's Point of Light Award for your work in Stargardt's disease and the Stargardt's Connected community, isn't it? That's such an honor.
I know, that was such a surprise. It was such an honour. So yeah, that was. I remember getting the email and reading it about 5 times, thinking, "Are you sure this is right? Is it a scam?" But yeah, no, that's been brilliant. And again, one of our aims of our charity is to raise awareness. And I thought, how brilliant is that the Prime Minister knows about a charity. Yeah, but it's great, and it's good that he's recognised this was on Rare Disease Day, and it's great that he's recognised the importance of the work of rare disease groups, and also understanding inherited retinal, about understanding, also raising awareness of Stargardt's, but also inherited retinal conditions as well. So I think that was brilliant, and I've continued to have communications with them, and they're really keen. The people that awarded us the award, I've had conversations with them, and they said keep me updated with the work that you're doing. So that's brilliant that they still are engaged and want to support us.
That's amazing, Bhavna. But don't be surprised. The work that you do is amazing, but it's quite nice that they recognize it, isn't it? So to our audience and anyone who is not aware, or perhaps you're from outside the UK, the Point of Light Award recognizes outstanding individuals who are making a change in their community. On your case, it was Rishi Sunak, isn't it, the Prime Minister?
Yeah, it was, and he wrote a lovely letter. And he actually, it was a few weeks before our conference, and he wished us best of luck for our conference, which was great that we got his blessings as well.
Yeah, that's amazing.
But it's a team effort, I mean, it's not. I mean, although I was keen to set something up, but you can't do something on your own. And I've got to say thank you to our team and our community who are so supportive. But we've got an amazing trustee board and great volunteers who support us, and you can't do this on your own, and you shouldn't do it on your own either. So I think I'm really grateful for that support that we have. We've also got Professor Michaelides, Franz Kremers, who are on our medical advisory board, and everybody's there to support. And this is all about the community, and that's, I always say, the community, the work we do is to support the community, and the community is the heart of the work that we do, and so and you can't have a charity without your community. So we're grateful for their support as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It takes a lot of teamwork, and it's a long run, isn't it? So Bhavna, what do you perceive as the main roles of charities and family support groups in the lives of families affected with rare disorders? In general, doesn't need to be Stargardt disease. What do you think is the role of these in the families and patients affected?
Yes, I think there's a few things. I mean, our mission statement, I think, kind of encompasses the work that we do, and I think what work what sort of rare disease charities will do. It's our mission statement is raising awareness, giving support, and seeking a cure. And the first thing I think is providing that support is so important. Knowing that you're not the only one, providing that sort of emotional, sort of practical support as well. So we've got our website, which kind of signposts people to other resources, but also gives information about the disease. And I think, again, with rare diseases, there's often that feeling of isolation. So we don't want people to ever feel like they're on their own. I have people contacting me from around the world, almost every day. And one of the things that many people are newly diagnosed. And I very often say to them, you're not on your own, and I think that point of diagnosis is so important, that you're not on your own, that it helps. Yes, it's not whether it's your child who's been diagnosed or whether it's you who's been diagnosed, it's not what you want, but knowing that you're not the only one, that there's support out there, that you can speak to somebody else, that's just going to help. And sort of alleviate some of the anxiety around that. So I think that's one thing, but also the opportunity to network. That's, where Stargardt's connected. We talked about connections and that kind of opportunity to network and link with others, that peer support. So, there's so much expertise within our community and so much support. So it's not just about me, but it's about others supporting others as well. And I think that's really important, those shared experiences. And so we have that opportunity. We are an actually international charity, so we have people from around the world that are kind of on our mailing list and on our patient registry. So we have face-to-face meetups for those people that can come to those, but also we have our Zoom sessions, which are for everyone and anyone. And so very often we'll have specific topics or speakers that come in, but we always have opportunities for people to sort of network and chat to one another in sort of smaller group breakout sessions. So that's kind of the support aspect. There's also sort of awareness raising, and I think that's important that we do that amongst all different groups. So within health professionals, so that there's this whole thing around the diagnostic odyssey with rare diseases, that it takes longer to diagnose because people aren't aware of certain symptoms and things. So something that we want to do is help raise awareness so that diagnosis pathway happens quicker, but also very much, we advocate and we sort of speak on behalf of our community. So I'm involved in the ITGene project. So I'm on the PAG, of the Patient Advisory Group, for that. So then, I can sort of represent the voices of our patient group and talk about what's important. And with the ITGene project, for example, it's around sort of using AI to speed up the diagnosis of, IRDs, which is inherited retinal diseases. So that kind of work's really important. But, so raising awareness amongst health professionals, but also sort of informing sort of schools and workplaces. So we're also
very important, Bhavna.
Really important, especially since it's a juvenile macular dystrophy. A lot of our children, a lot of our people that are diagnosed are young. Ethan was 7; he was one of the younger ones, but we get lots of teenagers that are diagnosed. So we've just been lucky enough to be granted an award from some funding from TPT, which is Thomas Pocklington Trust, and I'm doing a joint project with another wonderful charity called Usher Kids UK, and we're creating a toolkit, an educational toolkit. So this toolkit's going to be Stargardt specific on our side, and also it will be Usher. So that will be sort of launched next year, and so that's going to be around having resources that are downloadable on our website. So so when children are going into school and they've been diagnosed, at least schools can, parents, schools, children, they can access these resources. So again, that's really important. And also within the workplace, making sure, so it's all about that sort of raising awareness is so important.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very important. And just a personal question. So this will be available in the Stargardt's Connected website by next year. Is that the plan, this material?
Yeah, so probably end of spring next year. Yeah, so hopefully we can launch it next year, sort of middle of the year. So we're in the process of getting, we've got the funding, but we're in the process of creating the toolkit. So
amazing.
And this will be
so
something
important,
working.
Bhavna.
It's so important, and this is something that I know that I've had to deal with my child, but I also know so many families that contact us, talk about this, it is, it's a postcode lottery sometimes in terms of support and things, but if there's something out there that people can reach out to and say, right, this is the resource out, there's educational resources out there that can support us. But this will be work in progress, and we can always sort of, fine tune it as time and add to it as time goes on. But it's important. So that's that part, and then the other part is the research. So I think that's a really important part in sort of patient groups, that sort of you can support, stimulate, and fund research as well. So that importance of finding out more about we're a Stargardt specific support group, so we're going to want to find out more about the condition, help fund toward helping towards a potential treatment, and sort of working with pharma and industry. And I think that patient voice and patient perspective is really important. We are experts in our condition because we live it every day, whether it's our children who've got it or a family member, or whether it's you yourself. And I think we always say never underestimate the power of a patient voice and a patient group. And I think so I think that's another aspect of it as well. So so it's there's a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And, I think for what it's worth, it's life changing to patients. From hosting community sessions, I've seen a lot of those in the website, having the opportunity to regularly chat to other people who have the same condition and similar difficulties in life. So they have similar experiences. This can go a long way, I think.
Yeah, it definitely does. And I remember I actually was thinking about this today, and I was thinking the first time my son was diagnosed, and I remember you never forget that conversation you have with someone else who's got Stargardt's or someone else. I'll never forget that ever, and the comfort. I was so scared, I was so worried, and just speaking to the others just helped. That I'll never forget it. And I think if we can support one another, it's going to make just that thing a little bit easier. I think it's really important.
Yes, I agree, definitely. And another thing that some family support groups and charities do is that they offer patient registries, right? And it's not every charity that does that, but some do. And these are extremely important in gathering information of patients with any sort of disease, particularly if it's a rare disease like Stargardt disease. And hence, it can be extremely useful for researchers. So, to our audience who may not be aware, registries have been used in several fields of medicine for more than a century and a half, with their key role being frequently overlooked and poorly recognized. These have evolved from being tools to calculate basic epidemiological data, for example, incidence and prevalence of diseases, mortality, to more diverse applications in disease prevention, early diagnosis and screening programs, healthcare planning, research planning, decision making, and in the case of infectious diseases, for instance, disease control programs, which is the case for COVID, for example, which is quite recent. So Stargardt Connected did start a patient registry in October 2021. So it's been almost 2 years now, isn't it, Bhavna?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
So, on the perspective of the CEO of this charity, what do you deem to be the most important reason to have patient registries? How do you think these benefit patients?
So there's a couple of things there. So I mean, you were there for the launch, weren't you? I remember you
Yes,
came
I
and
was.
spoke, and it was we've really grown since then. So one of the sort of objectives is we wanted to link people up. And so connect like the community. So what we've now got at the moment, we've got nearly 250 people registered on our registry, and it's an international register. So we've got an amazing one of our Stargardt's advocates is Paul Appleyard, and he's worked really diligently, and we've now got like 28 groups around the world that we've linked people up. So again, this is about that kind of reducing the isolation, be able to speak to others. So I think that linking that up is really, really important. And the other thing is, finding out more about the condition, like we talked about, finding out their trends, finding out the prevalence, how it affects different people. So having that information there, it's really important. But also, it's been for what we've realised actually, what's been really useful is that we've had quite a few pharma companies contact us, and they're really interested in knowing about our patient registry, and we've actually been able to help recruit. So for clinical trials, so we've been able to, so people who have consented, so on the form you can consent to be linked up, on the form you can also be consent to find out more about research, and those people who have, we've been able to sort of go to them and saying to them, there's this trial out here, are you interested in participating in there? So that's really, I think that's that's important. And I think the more people that sign up, the more useful the registry will be, and it will grow. So we're so pleased, and that we've been able to do this. So
Yeah, and it's a great perspective that you have, Bhavna. And from personal experience as a clinical researcher, one of the biggest difficulties and gaps that we have is identifying patients who might be good candidates for observational and interventional studies. And the data that you're collecting, such as age of diagnosis, results of genetic testing, geographical location, ethnic background, these all are basic things but already reduce this gap. So in a lot of ways, speeds up research as well.
yeah, no, definitely. It's such an important thing to have, and we're so pleased that we have got this patient registry, which is growing. So we know we're trying to get more people sort of signing up for it as well. So
Yeah, of course, and hopefully you can grow this even bigger. So I have noticed, Bhavin, we were talking about research and collaboration, and I have noticed that Stargardt Connected has recently joined forces with Fight for Sight to push forward research in Stargardt's disease. And Fight for Sight, for those who don't know, is one of the leading UK charities funding pioneering ocular research. This is a funding for a small grant award scheme which is intended to support early career researchers. So, how do you see this kind of collaboration, Bhavna? Do you think this can speed up research for rare disorders?
definitely, I think it's brilliant. We're so excited to partner with Fight for Sight. And, with the joint small grant award, we put some money towards it and they match fund it. So already you're doubling that money. So that's going to help already. And, the work that we do is specific to Stargardt. So we've got our expertise and they've got their expertise as well. And it's so good to collaborate. It's so important to pool those resources. And, and Fight for Sight, they're an excellent, research charity. So we're really excited to be with them. But we also want to sort of, again, with rare diseases, sort of raise that profile, show that there's an interest in Stargardt disease and research. So it's really important to work together and collaborate, I think. And we do that quite a lot with other charities as well. So, even like not in the research field, but we're going to be doing a family day with Victor, which they do a lot of work with children. Obviously I'm working with Usher Kids UK, and I think that collaboration is so important, and working together to help sort of stimulate research, supporting another, all of that is so important, that you're not working on your own and
Yeah, it's
using the
very
resources
important.
that are already out there, which is really, really important.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And hopefully, you get to collaborate with other charities as well and do more research.
Yeah, definitely. And hopefully we can raise more money as well, because I think that's the other thing, I think just
Yeah,
showing that
absolutely.
that's, can't do research without raising money. So hopefully we can do.
Yeah, yeah. You certainly can't do research without raising money. And this actually lends really nicely to the next question I had. So, moving away from charity based funding, what do you think about the biopharmaceutical industry? Do you think disease based family support groups and charities could benefit from also being actively communicating and involved with the industry?
Definitely, absolutely. And I think going back to what I said, we are the experts in our condition. And I think that patient voice is really important. It's really powerful in advocacy. And having that patient perspective is really important. And you must never underestimate the power of the patient group. And I think we need to use that voice, for pharma companies and industry. And, if they're going to be designing a clinical trial, they need to be involved with our patient group to talk to them about it. And also, knowing how it affects them, you can't design a trial, I think, without having that patient perspective in there. And also knowing, we talk about something about patient outcomes and, what is important to them, what will a successful treatment look like? And you can't do that without that. And also, I think, going back to this whole thing about having these patient groups, I know that, a pharma company won't do necessarily a trial, or aren't going to go into research or going to, if there isn't that patient group. So knowing that there is something out there, it's really important, and that we've got an engaged community and having that patient registry again that they can use. So I think it's it works, it's mutually beneficial, of course. And and I think, just an anecdote. So I was at a conference not too long ago, and I was talking to a company that are dealing with a pharma company in trials, and they actually said they were looking for patients for, it wasn't actually even a rare disease, it was a condition that I'd heard of. And they said they're finding it quite hard to recruit because they haven't got this particular condition, even though it's well known. There isn't a specific sort of group for that, but they haven't actually got a registry, or, they haven't got the patients. And then I told them about our, Stargardt's Connected, and I had no idea, but they said, oh, actually, we're actually doing clinical trials in Stargardt's, and we'd be interested to know. So I thought, already, they were engaged, and I thought, wow, that just goes to show how important this part is. And I think that's what
It's
I'm
very important,
realizing as Charities growing. There is that support aspect, obviously awareness aspect, but also that working with the pharma companies, obviously, to sort of accelerate that research and help them. But also, I'm getting so many people contacting me, and I think having that, this is where you have your patient support group that they can reach out to. So that is really, really important.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And, I think the perspective that you have is very singular, is fascinating, actually, because you are the mother of a patient with a rare retinal disease and also the CEO of a charity who is in direct communication with these sponsors. So, I think it's fascinating what you can bring to this discussion. I have a final question, Bob, and I don't want to take much of your time. As the CEO of a charity, right, and as the mother of a patient affected with Stargardt disease, what do you hope the future will bring for Stargardt disease? And do you have any messages for patients and families who are affected with rare diseases, whatever they may be, Stargardt or not?
Yeah, so obviously I hope for a treatment for Stargardt's. I hope we can continue to grow and support our community and raise funds to support them and for the research. I think that's what we want, really. And that, there's this whole thing about the diagnostic pathway to improve that, and that people aren't alone. I don't want anyone to ever feel like they're on their own. Ethan, I think, as a mum, he's always had, from quite early on, because of the work that we've done, is that he's met lots of people with Stargardt's, and I think that's really helped him. And I've talked about advocacy for him. That's really important. And he's now 15, and he's able to speak to, it's taken time. And I think, when you're that age, you don't want to talk about your condition all the time. They just want to be the same as the others. But I've also said to him, it's important that he's able to talk about his needs and able to voice that. And I think he's getting there, and he's getting a lot better with that. And but he leads a full, happy life. He went skiing with his school this year, and he's gonna, he has very full social life, better than mine. But the other thing that he did, and I think this is about the advocacy, so he's part of something called Young Persons Advisory Group, YPAG, IYPAG at Moorfields, and he had this opportunity to go to a conference in San Diego, and where he said the conference is called ICANN, which is the International Children's Advisory Network. So it wasn't just to do with eyes. I think Moorfields IYPAG were the only sort of eye condition specific group. But there were lots of other people there, from children there who were poorly from other hospitals. And he had the opportunity to talk about accessibility, which was really important, and what was important to him, but also talk about, give his perspective to clinical trials and advocate for himself. And I think that's really important, the advocacy aspect. So I think, hopefully onwards and upwards of our charity for other people with rare diseases. I think, what I would say is reach out to others. If if there is a support group, reach out to others, speak to others I think that's so important, to connect with others. And collaborating with others as well. And I think that really makes a difference. There also, I know there's other amazing organisations that support people who are setting up a patient group. So like Rare Beacon, Genetic Alliance, we're a member of them. So there is lots of support out there. There's lots of amazing support out there. So don't feel like you're on your own. But I think definitely if you've got a rare disease, connecting with others, speaking to others, is a really important thing, and I think that's really helped us. And I think just speaking to others, it makes a difference.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And that's heartwarming to hear, Bhavna. Thank you so much for that. And thank you so much for, participating in this episode of this podcast as well. I can't even begin to say how much of an honor it is to have you here with me.
Oh, no, thank you for inviting me. It's been amazing.
Oh, it's a great pleasure.
It's great to have this podcast as well. So it's brilliant. Congratulations.
Thank you so much for that, Bhavna. Guys, if you like the work we do, please consider sharing, following, and subscribing in the website www.eyesonresearch.org. There you also have options to support us, and you also have access to our Buy Me a Coffee website. Our supporters will have the opportunity to suggest a future theme for a subsequent episode or a short video that I post regularly in our social media accounts: Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, you name it, we have it. So please do check them out. We have new episodes every Wednesday. Thank you so much for listening to me today, and I hope to see you in the next episode.